She is here. I am honored to present District 4 Councilmember Janani Ramachandran, and I really am proud of the work she's doing down there and making herself available here for this. And I know how you're doing, so we talked about it off camera. And she's had a heck of a day. So, but we'll go right into this. As viewers know, or those that are tuning in right now, Oakland Mayor Thao asked for a raise of $75,000. And what is so obviously controversial, speaking for me, is that in my entire generation plus of working for and being associated with the city of Oakland in a number of different ways, well, basically as an aide to the mayor and all that, or council member, or or video blogger and all that stuff, I have never seen anyone make such a request at a time when the city was in so much dire need of help. Uh, and then well, I'll just stop right there. You're the only no vote on the finance committee. What did you think about this? Why is it that you are the only no vote? And what's going on that we can allow ourselves to be in this position?
So I can't speak for my colleagues' decision yesterday, but I do hope that some of them, as well as a majority of council members, reconsider and change their mind before next Tuesday. There has been an outpour of public criticism. Our inboxes, all of the council member inboxes, have flooded with constituents from all over Oakland. This is not a District 4 residents crying about this or 1 or 7. Every corner of Oakland, there's a unifying theme. Oakland, we have been talking about for months that we are in the midst of a massive historic fiscal deficit. 360 plus million dollars in the next 2-year cycle. We have had to make drastic cuts, uncomfortably difficult cuts to staff positions, to services, to contracts, to nonprofits, and as well as not having increases in salary for those city workers making less than a living wage in Oakland. We have City of Oakland employees who make, unfortunately, as little, some of them exactly minimum wage. And we have others who make slightly above, but wages that aren't living wages to be able to afford and live in Oakland. And if we're having meaningful conversations about raising wages, which I am all for, let's start with those who can barely afford to live in Oakland or anywhere in the Bay Area and have those conversations there. Let's dedicate our limited financial resources within the city, if we're talking salaries, to those who need it and those who are going to make our city run, delivery of the basic constituent services, the individuals and programs and contracts and grants that clean our streets, that sweep our streets, that pave our roads, that maintain the parks, the rec centers, the after-school programs, police, fire, of course. These are the kinds of things that I believe we should be spending our very limited financial resources on in light of the financial situation that we're in.
Why didn't she just simply say, well, last mayor didn't take a raise in 8 years, 10 years. And I know that the mayor's offices do one regardless of who his mayor is. But given the situation, I will actually take that 75,000. I'll create 2 new positions, or I will fund positions that would not have been funded. That's what boggles my mind, and that no one has said to her, hey, by the way, Ms. Mayor, we're in trouble. Look around the city. I mean, just that's what gets me. I cry over what's happening, literally. What is it about this mayor that she's tone deaf on this. Have you had a chance to talk with her at all?
Certainly not about but if she's watching or has staff that is, I mean, I hope that she is listening to the public and perhaps changes her mind. And like you said, we have a history of mayors as well as council members who have taken the bold step of not asking for, or we go back to Jean Kwan actually voluntarily cutting her own salary. And no one's asking anyone to do that right now. But in the moment that we're in, I think we do need to consider historical trends and what past mayors have done.
Is it, Hooper says, calling 9/11 to report mayor's pay raises is as a crime as unsuccessful as 9/11 gives the message that the number is disconnected and no longer in service. And there is this controversy regarding 9/11, and as well as all the other controversies we've been dealing with. And so, how is she doing this as a test? Is she testing her loyalty or something, or her political power? Is she trying to test? Does she think she can just roll over you guys and, oh yeah, this is just, I can just do this because I'm mayor? Because she actually has texts that imply that. Hashtag, bye Felicia, hashtag they never saw us coming. I've got the texts, okay? And more I haven't even printed. So I'm wondering what is going on that we're not addressing and we're allowing to go, unaddressed. And this person is the leader of Oakland. Now, look, I hate to say that, but I come from the time when we were expected to criticize government, and government was expected to deal with our criticisms and not, PR its way around it. Am I wrong?
And it's true. We have to hold ourselves to the standard of taking on the burden and being part of the system that's taking on the burden of a difficult fiscal climate. There's a difference between elected positions versus those that are appointed and hired. We signed up for these jobs. And while members' pay is only about $103.6 thousand a year, I knew that coming in and I voluntarily took the job. We all had expectations coming into this, and we also knew coming into this, it was no surprise that Oakland's fiscal environment wasn't doing well either. We knew some of these realities by the time I came around.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, a council member. Continue. Yeah. Looked like you got a concerning text or something. I was like, oh my God, did I say something wrong?
No.
I did, fine. But the whole point
was wailing at my door and was trying to get in, so I was just trying to calm her down for a second. She might make an appearance, but
oh my God. Do you want to let her? You want to let her in, or just?
Oh, she's in. She's in. She made it in.
Oh, good. Okay. I didn't want to be the cause of anybody's discomfort. So, I mean, in that case, other cases, political cases, I don't mind. But the whole point is, how, in the context of this, do you expect the council to handle it? Do you think that they'll say, "Well, collectively, here's an alternative"? Because I think there should be a performance-based, increase with the measure, and then the increase happens, just to really get us to do the things necessary to get us back to normal. What do you think?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of things that I think we need to do. We need to certainly consider a charter, because right now, what's in the charter is, if the council does decide to increase the mayor's salary, we have to between 70% and 90% of the average of the nearest in population six California cities, not but their city manager or their city administrator. So we are comparing apples, not even to oranges. We're comparing apples to grapes here. And that's something, and I wasn't around when they wrote this provision of the charter. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what the reasons were, but right now that doesn't seem to make sense. Why are we comparing our city to the city manager of Fresno, of Bakersfield, of Long Beach. Because if you look at, and I did look at, the salaries of their mayors, it is far lower. The average of what these 6 same cities' mayors make is a full $100,000 less than what Oakland's mayor makes. So that's a pretty stark difference right now.
Having been around when that happened, I can tell you what was going on. We didn't have the housing crisis we do now, first of all, and on top of that, and so the standard of living and the cost of living measures were different. And Oakland's population was slightly smaller, not too much, but there was a feeling that we fit into those rubrics, if you will. But what's going on is that the dramatically rising, housing costs plus the inflation rate has caused a dramatic change in conditions and perception. That's what's going on.
Yeah. And there are reasons to compare Oakland to other cities in general. But let's look at, let's compare apples to apples, our mayor compared to other cities' mayors. And, if there's arguments to say, no, we got to think about Bay Area cities, I'm open to that. If we want to compare similar in the public eye, similar issues, et cetera, I'm open to that. I mean, you can take San Diego, for example. Population is about 1.4, 1.5 million, and their mayor only makes about a little over 200K as well. You take the governor of California. Governor of California only makes 220K. So there's real reasons, public servants need living wages. I am 100% for. And actually, what I talked about yesterday at the Finance Committee is, given the charter where we're at, that 70 to 90% range of near comparably sized city managers, let's go at the lower end of it. I'm not even talking about a charter amendment right now. Just talking about what we have, the power that we legally have right now on council to say, given our financial crisis, let's look at the lower end of that range. So if you take 75% of that, for example, you get a salary of, I think, $231K per year, which is still an increase from $203,000 to $331,000. That falls within the charter. It's still a raise. That means the mayor makes more than any of her staff members, because there was an argument the mayor makes less than one of her staff members right now. We can solve all those issues by going on the lower end. But what was in front of us, and what will be in front of us on Tuesday, is a proposal to increase the mayor's salary to the maximum allowable amount, not even close to 90%, but 90%.
Yeah. It's an in-your-face dare. It's like a dare. It's like, I'm daring you. I double dare you. I can almost see, Samuel L. Jackson saying that one of his, I double dare you, right? And it wouldn't surprise me if the mayor put up a meme like that. I'm not kidding, because my question to you is, you mentioned comparing cities and everything, but I'm talking about a person who's only been in office for 7 months. Why not have her wait until the end of the year? And then on top of that, Madam Council Member, Madam Mayor is under investigation still by the Oakland Public Ethics Commission. I was informed of that last week. That is still active and open. So what if it turns out that she is found guilty of something? And then basically you have to wear collectively how you've, allowed her to have what she wants under this cloud of this investigation. And then what comes out of it is embarrassing, or could potentially be embarrassing to a number of people. Has anyone talked about that? We haven't had a mayor in this situation before.
Exactly. Right now in our charter, salary isn't tied to performance. And, as we think about a charter amendment, perhaps that's a criteria. And I get it's difficult. I understand measuring performance objectively is difficult. I guess my personal here is not about the mayor's performance or investigations or whatnot. And, while those issues might exist, my focus is in guiding my decision really is fiscal prudence. Let's be smart about how we're spending our money right now, rather than kind of getting into any of those, and I know they're all out there in the public. And, I hear that from constituents all the time, many of these concerns, but my guiding principle here is let's be smart with our money at a time we don't really have much.
And also, we are talking about this, but I think you would prefer to talk about your initiatives, right? I mean, so it's like, how dare she?
Well, I mean, I think it's part and parcel of it. It's coming into this role, I was all about let's focus on good government, not politicking, not let's debate if we're left or right or middle or center or a political bucket we fall into, whether you call yourself a moderate or progressive. Those are all buzzwords, especially in a place like Oakland. Let's focus on good government, being smart with our money, being careful about how we spend our money, because Oakland has not always had a good history of that. So let's make sure we're building positive relationships with the county and doing our due diligence before giving out contracts and grants, making sure there's equity in those processes, uplifting the parts of our community that need more support, public safety, all of that. But it comes from this lens of accountability and transparency. If we're going to be voting on the mayor's salary increase, and if you're voting for it, I believe you need a clearly articulated reason for why you're going to vote in such and such way, or whether you're not going to vote in such and such way. I had a similar rationale for the budget, for my vote on the budget, and I have a similar underlying principle for how I'm voting now. It's about making sure we're spending our money ethically and in the smartest way possible, and doing our due diligence. So to me, this vote is a consistent theme of how I would like to see Oakland moving forward, and hopefully see more consensus of that among my colleagues.
Hey, do you have some sense of how this really came about? Because I know the memo was written by Ian Appleyard, but the new city administrator signed off on it. But knowing Oakland politics as I do, it wouldn't surprise me that the memo actually came from the mayor's office, was passed to Mr. Appleyard, and made to look like it went through a process. Have you gotten any feedback on how this came about?
Honestly, I have not. All I know is that Ian Appleyard has since left, and there is as of June 30th, and there's an interim HR director. I don't really know the inner workings of how this came to us. I just know that's in front of us now, and we have a choice on council, and the administration also has a choice. They don't have to have the item heard on Tuesday. They can pull the item.
So let me interesting. Mr. Appleyard left. Are we certain that was really Mr. Appleyard that wrote the memo and he was still here to write it, or his name was just used? That brings up
again. Yeah. Again, I'm not sure. There's a brand new city administrator.
Yeah.
There's a gap of an HR director. I mean, you can ask a lot of questions about this, certainly, and
which leads to the judgment call. It's like, what's going on here? It just seems like truth or dare. I dare you to do this. It really seems like she's thinking along those lines. Like, I'm going to test my power now. And there's some reason she's doing this. It's not just now. She could wait, and now, because now, here's my other question, council member, is that please explain to me.
Actually, sorry, 1 second. I am I'm just going to let my cat out 1 second.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask her why there's this discrepancy. Why are they using salary and not salary and benefits, when with salary and benefits, we're talking about a $357,000 compensation package, right? So the assumption is that, she's making just 200,000, and oh my lord. But ABC 7 seemed to put out the idea that it was helping the mayor's cause, right? But it wasn't. Oh, you're back. Okay, great. Yeah. What I was going to ask, I little prep. ABC7 put out what seemed to be a news report trying to help Madam Mayor, but it actually called into question the memo that Mr. Appleyard supposedly wrote, reporting that the mayor's base was 202,000 when they put up that her package was 357,000, and whereas the mayor of San Francisco's package was 444,000. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, wait a minute. If she's already at 357,000, that completely blows away the memo, that was given to you all to make a judgment upon. So don't we have a problem with what the right number should be, and why are we not including benefits in the consideration?
Yeah, I think there's often an issue when it comes to what exactly is the amount of money someone's getting paid. And because our salaries are fairly public, there are different numbers being reported. And I asked this on the dais yesterday at the finance committee meeting. I compared, state controller Owen's website, which stated the mayor's salary is slightly higher without benefits versus what we had on paper. And I didn't quite get a clear answer, but it's something that I will be asking with more detail to our finance department. Cities calculate salaries differently. I mean, to me, this seems like a straightforward issue. How much money is on your paycheck at the end of every 2 weeks? And what additional benefits do you factor in? Benefits, I understand there's a certain percentage that goes towards various expenses, and that's just part of the process, and that certainly adds up. But my question was, as far as the take-home salary goes, why is there a discrepancy in that number? Not even thinking about benefits. But what is important for us to consider, and what I have requested some information from our finance department, is what's the total damage effectively in this fiscal cycle. If we're talking about a $75,000 raise for 2 years, and then added onto that the correlating amount of benefits, for arguments, and I don't know this number yet, but for argument's sake, let's say the total is $100K per year, more, but let's say it's $100K per year times 2, that's about $200,000. Again, probably a little more, including the benefits, that will cost the city.
Yeah, actually,
what I really
60,000. Yeah.
Where is that coming from? What might have to be cut, or what might not be able to be added as a result of that? Because this does come from our general fund. Our general fund is also what funds most of our staff positions in many of these departments that do essential constituent services. Our general fund is also where, for example, the Department of Violence Prevention has funds to give out contracts to local nonprofits. It's the same fund that we perform most of our city resources. So if $200,000 from that amount is going away, what's the trade-off here? What's the proposal? And it's a little unclear right now. It's actually very unclear right now.
I'm curious to know, what happens if she doesn't get what she wants? What happens if you collectively vote no? What happens?
Well, I still think we have other options. I mean, I'm not, let's not increase at all. I'm suggesting something pretty practical, which is on the lower end of that 70 to 90%, given our fiscal crisis. So what I'm hoping is that we can have some constructive debate next week. And if we're going to increase the salary, to increase it on the lower end, 75 versus 90th percentile. And there was an argument made on the dais yesterday about CPI increase, that the mayor hasn't gotten an increase since 2013. But if you look at how council salaries are increased every 2 years, that's by CPI. If you average it out between 2 to 4%, let's just take percent over that many years, 3% every 3 years, that ends up at around 232 or 3K. That's about the amount that I'm proposing. So I'm fine with an increase. I recognize that there's not been an increase over the past several years. I'm really trying to be pragmatic. Like I said, public servants do deserve to be paid adequately.
Yes.
And let's just be mindful of the context and what all is going on right now, and suggest an amount that could be reasonable. So my hope is that if we vote no on this 90% proposal, that then we can come back and say, okay, we'll do a friendly amendment on the dais to reduce that number to a lower percentage, like what I mentioned, which more or less equals the CPI increase.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. And, and I'm not saying a decrease should happen. I'm just concerned about it's the timing, and it's just how bad the city looks. And we're being beaten up nationally. And I know because I'm 3,000 miles away and I've got my place over on, Palm, and we look bad, real bad, worse than we've ever looked in my history. And so for her to do this at this time, it's not a good look. I'm just putting that mildly. It's just not a good look. And I just hope that you all, maybe put it in her lap. All right. Maybe, I don't know, maybe make her the tie break. So, you know what I'm saying? That's what I do. It's to put it in her lap, let her deal with it. Because there's
still time for it to be taken off the agenda as well. There's time for us to suggest a different amount. There's a lot that can happen in a few days that could come up. We can come up with a happy medium, a compromise, because that is what this should be about. We throw different ideas out there and we talk about it and we discuss what is and then we listen to the public. And then we figure out what's practical, what's sensible. And so I've thrown my idea out there. Staff has thrown their idea out there. 3 council members agree with that. But since then, in 2 days, not only have we heard from hundreds of constituents, we are hearing from more and more every day. So maybe we can come to something that represents a compromise and council members acting in good faith about reaching a decision that reflects the will of the people, because that's what we're elected to do.
That's right. Hey, so what have you got coming up that you'd like people to know about as we, close to the end of our conversation?
Absolutely. Well, firstly, if you care about District 4 or live in District 4 or have business there, or just want to know what you're up to, follow me. Also sign up for our newsletters. We are really trying to do as much engagement as possible. I'm pretty transparent about any decision that I make, any vote I make, and I try to explain some of my key votes in my newsletter. And I have office hours. My staff is amazing. They respond to constituents at a fairly quick rate. Our office is really focused on community engagement and demystifying the political process, because not that long ago I was in those shoes and want more of an understanding of how this works, what public comment actually means. How do you submit a virtual speaker's card? I mean, there's so many nuances. How does a piece of legislation pass from rules to committee to council, and what's the timeline? And what I really want to feel to feel is a sense of empowerment, that they can participate, that they can access their council member. And no, there's a lot of things that I don't have the power to do in a strong mayor system of government, and in a system where, I can't direct departments or whatnot. But I see myself and my team as a liaison between these different departments and the community. So we are out there as much as possible at community events, on the ground, in neighborhoods, trying to connect those dots and make people feel like they can participate and that it's worth participating in. And so the one thing I do have to say to anyone listening, I appreciate people's emails, and I am active and listening to every single one of them. My request is that you take that to the advocacy of the entire council, mayor, and city administration, because not as many people make public comment as are making their voice heard on Nextdoor, as are making their voice heard on Facebook, or even through emails or calls to individual council offices. I know it's hard and laborious, and it's not always easy to make a council meeting, but Zoom is an option, telephone is an option, and if all of that seems confusing on how to participate, reach out to our office, district4@oaklandca.gov, and we want more voices to be heard on those public meetings. I certainly want more voices to be heard. So that community engagement is really our number one focus. And again, sign up for our newsletters if you want more details on what we're up to.
And I would be making a mistake if I didn't get out here without asking you about the athletics. And I talked to you about Karen briefly. I know that you're sort of just getting up to speed. So, but just, getting out there on the record that I did ask you about it. So someone says you didn't ask her, Zenny. What are your thoughts about the athletics departure to Las Vegas and Mayor Thao's recent visit to the commissioner?
I mean, I'm crushed by the fact that the A's are leaving and that the city really tried its hardest. And there was so much effort, and people complain that Raiders fans in Las Vegas, that energy is just not the same. And the A's are going to feel that too. I think the recent protest at the Coliseum and having thousands and thousands of people show up there to show that we care about our hometown team showcases that they've made a poor choice. They're going to miss out. And if there's any last minute effort that can be done to keep them back here, I mean, I'm not sure of the rules and how final, I mean, at least in the law and a lot of aspects of the law, things aren't always quite final. There's always a gray zone. But I'm no expert in this kind of area. If there's anything that can be done, I would love to see how we could keep the team in Oakland. But if not, they're really going to regret that decision. And I just look forward to the future. What teams can be retained, what teams can be invited to keep that culture alive. But at this point, I don't know what to say except that I'm really crushed. And I know that this was something that Oakland really did try its hardest. And I'll leave it at that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, thank you for your time so much. Hey, stick around in the background real quick. Folks, I want to thank you. We're going to have some more later. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. Please bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com and our newly redesigned blog, Oakland News Online, oaklandnewsonline.com, excuse me. And it's been a long day, folks. And Zenny62.com. All right. That ends this broadcast. You don't have to push a button, council member. I got you. You don't have to in fact, stick around right there.